Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 166. And this show will review all the comics I read this week in one show. Yeah, let's get started. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. And let's start. This was a pretty big haul this week. I had 25 books, and number 25 was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 20. Yeah, this book was really low. I like Clone Conspiracy. I did like the first issue. It didn't blow me away, but I liked the first issue of Clone Conspiracy. And I feel like now Amazing Spider-Man is this weird, not needed tie-in. I will say, if you like Dr. Octopus, if you like Superior Spider-Man, you're gonna really enjoy this. But I don't know if it was really necessary story. It's just like, alright, how did Dr. Octopus get in his body? Honestly, never really questioned it. So, don't know if we needed a whole issue for this. They really spread it thin. So for me, I wasn't really a big fan of it. The artwork's okay. I don't really like some of the line work here. It kind of feels B-rated. Even this coloring here feels B-rated. So, yeah, I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man issue 20 2 stars. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. Moving on to number 24, another book I haven't been a huge fan of, and that's Green Arrow issue 9. Still really bored by this book, and I do feel that they do the Black Canary, Green Arrow relationship way over the top. I still don't know where that build-up came from. The only aspect I really do like about the book is the artwork. I like this cartoonish art style. I don't know why, which is weird because this book is really dark for what it is. It's like a horror book at this point. But I like this cartoony, lighter artwork. But yeah, the story bored me for me. I don't care about the villain or them trying to get Diggle. Also, spread very thin for the story it was telling. So, Green Arrow issue 9 gets 2 stars, and that is number 24. Moving on to number 23, a book I think I'm going to drop, sadly, and that is Nightwing issue 7. I've been reading it digitally for a couple issues now, but still not doing it for me. There's some aspects of the story of like, oh, how does this, I think what's his name? Not Ravager, but Nightwing's new partner. What's his past with Dick's mother? I'm like, oh, that's semi-interesting. But that was literally the last page of the book. All the other stuff I was really not interested in, and learning more about him or their relationship, which again, never thought was that interesting. But the artwork's not bad. So I gave this 2.5 stars. Again, it's not a bad book, but it's just not doing it for me. So that is number 23. Moving on to number 22, which is The Mighty Thor issue 12, which is sad because this is like in my top 5 last time. But this was very exposition heavy. Again, another book. Did we need all this exposition? I don't know. But I liked learning about the connection the Thors have about the hammer, but this is the part I never liked about the Thor, the epic poem type part. And that's weird, because it's like, oh, well, Kat, why are you reading Thor? It's like, it is Norse, it's a Norse story. Of course you're going to get this epic poem style. Well, that's why I'm reading Jane's story. Like, she is a god, but she's a human also. So, that's the aspect I like. That's the grounded part. Like, if you want to do the Norse god stuff, do it in Unworthy Thor. I don't think you need to do it here. So I thought it was a little bit too much for me. Learning about the hammer was very exposition heavy for most of the issue. So it felt a little fillerish to me. The Mighty Thor issue 12 gets 2.5 stars. Alright, so we are moving on to number 21, which is Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, issue 1. In this book, I feel like it doesn't know what it wants to be, and that's the hardest part about the book. It's cartoony, it's kid-friendly, but at the same time, it's like Patsy going through these downward spirals of being upset and not, trying not to, hurt her friends. And then you have Black Cat, who is already really cartoonish with her villainy, because there's still no motive of her being a villain, besides in Silk, where I thought her story was really well done. Everywhere else, I have not liked Black Cat being a villain again. I've never even been a big Black Cat fan, so I really don't like the direction of her character here. And again, it goes this cartoonish route with her, and that's the point. I don't know what type of story they're trying to tell, so I gave Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, issue 11, 2.5 stars. Alright, so we are moving on to number 20, which is the last issue of this book, Mockingbird issue 8, which is a shame. I kind of wish this did not tie into Civil War 2, because I think it could have had a better ending without it tying in, because I like the ending where she's like meets up with Clint and Hunter and they kind of live happily ever after. She's able to defeat a villain, a very long time villain for her. But the rest of her being on this cruise boat didn't really do it for me. I still felt out of it. I felt like this story has been really prolonged. So I didn't really feel like it was a last issue. I thought it was a very forced tie-in to Civil War 2, and it kind of continued to be so with this last issue. So Mockingbird issue 8 for me gets 3 stars. Not a bad issue, but I expected a little bit more from the ending because the beginning of the series was very strong. Moving on to number 19, which is a new book, and that is Spell on Wheels, issue 1, which I really like the plot. I like the idea of these witches who, they're pretty good witches. They get something stolen from them, and one of the witches, it seems like she has a past with this guy. And there's characters who have a possibility of getting magic, trying to steal magic. And I thought that was cool. Artwork was pretty good. But the problem with this book, I thought, were the characters. Because we start in, like, this middle of the story where all these witches know each other and they have a relationship already, they don't really explain why we should like these characters or care for these characters. So that kind of left me where I don't know if I want to get the next issue, because this was a very big week for my haul, and the next time it comes out it might be a very big week also. So it didn't really pull me as much as I wanted it to. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 18, which is Powerpuff Girls, issue 4, which was a fun issue. I mean, it still has its silliness to it. Like, it's not as, clever humor as the original Powerpuff Girls, but reading it in a comic, you still do have that clever humor. Because in your mind, you can make the voices of the original cast instead of the cast we have now, which is very different from the original Powerpuff Girls. So, I liked it, though. We get to see we get to see him show up as the villain, and then the Powerpuff Girls have to learn how to ride a bike, which is cool because they usually fly, so you never really think that they would have to learn to ride a bike. And it makes sense, because they are kindergartners. This is the time they would learn to ride a bike, so I liked it. I thought it was fun. I like reading it as a comic. That's kind of how I get my Powerpuff Girls fill. So I gave this 3 stars. Moving on to number 17, which is probably one of the more anticipated books this week, and that was Infamous Iron Man issue 1, which wonderfully spoiled Civil War 2. Oh, praises to Marvel. Thank you. Yeah, we get spoiled for Civil War, which kind of sucks, because I think I saw a tweet from Brian Michael Bendis where he said, oh, well, I didn't spoil it because you guys are still wondering how it happens. But still, like, now we know he's going to die, so the anticipation's not as much there as I would want it to be. So, yeah, I think that takes me out of the book a little bit. Also, I don't know if this book made me a Dr. Doom fan, and it didn't really tell me, yes, Dr. Doom can hold his own series, especially a flagship book like Iron Man. It just doesn't feel right to me, but there are interesting plots here. We get to see Dr. Doom's mom, and then him wanting more power, and that's why he kind of tries to become a hero. So there's definitely good aspects to the book where I'm like, yeah, totally, I'll buy the next issue, but I still am not convinced that Dr. Doom is a good lead for this book. We'll have to see. So Infamous Iron Man issue 1 gets 3 stars. So we are moving on to number 16, a book that's a lot lower than usual, but I'm glad it's still continuing because it says to be continued in the end. And that is Sunflower issue 6. I love this book because look at this artwork. So gorgeous. But I will say the character drivenness of this book wasn't here as much as the others. So the mom, she has to like go somewhere and like break into this house. It's a lot of the part of the issue where it was a little slower for me, but then it picks up a lot in the end where we get to see her come face to face with her daughter, and her daughter is totally manipulated. Her brain is not the daughter she knew and loved. And it's cool artwork-wise that they look really similar. So I give kudos to the artist for that. And in the end, you get this crazy cliffhanger of the mom being stabbed. So you wonder, is this book called Sunflower for a reason? Is it not about the mom, and it's about Sunflower herself, and realizing that she's kind of in this wrong mind frame after she sees her mother die. So very good cliffhanger. Again, it takes a while to get to that cliffhanger, so that's why it's a little lower for me, but I still love this book, and really recommend it. It's one of my favorites, so totally pick up Sunflower if you haven't already. So Sunflower issue 6 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 15, which is Injustice Gods Among Us, Year 5, issue 20, which is a pretty fun issue. I mean, it's still Batman vs. Superman, of course. But the situations they get into, using the boom tube, things like that, I like that. I thought it was interesting. There's some good character moments between Batman and Superman. I mean, I'm still not totally impressed because, yeah, we've been dealing with 5 volumes of the same thing, and there have been better issues of Injustice, but of course I'm going to continue reading. I'm excited to see what Ground Zero is all about, and then finally getting into Tom Taylor's new volume of Injustice Gods Among Us, which I'm really excited about. So overall, I gave this issue 3.5 stars. Not a bad issue, worth reading, but probably not the best issue of Injustice Gods Among Us either. Especially for how long we've been waiting for the ending of this. Alright, moving on to number 14, a book that really surprised me because I really didn't like the other Young Animal books. I didn't really like Shade. I might pick up the second issue for that. I dropped Doom Patrol. It was too weird for me. And then we get Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, and I felt, yeah, it's still weird, but it's a little bit more grounded, where I got the characters a little bit more. Once again, it falls into this storytelling thing where the story starts in the middle, where it feels like you're reading a 10th issue instead of a first. So it makes your audience think, yeah, you know Cave Carson, let's continue. It's like reading a Superman book. It's like, no, you gotta explain who Cave Carson is. So that could have been done better here, but I really like Oming's art style, which has this like detective feel to it, but also utilizes the psychedelic thing well. And also, I really enjoyed the relationship between Cave and his daughter. They just lost, you know, her mother and his wife, and we're seeing how the eyes connected all of that. The daughter's growing up, and she's mourning, but they're still close. They still have a good relationship. So I think that was definitely the grounding element for this book, and this is a book where I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely get issue 2. With Shade, I definitely wasn't sure if I was getting issue 2, and then Doom Patrol, I'm like, nope, this isn't for me. So I'm glad this is a little bit more grounded and less out there than the other Young Animal books. So Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, issue 1 gets 3.5 stars. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Number 13 is a book I've been really enjoying, and that's Raven, issue 2. So I did like issue 1 a bit more. I think the supporting characters were a little bit more interesting there. And I don't really like the idea that Raven's using her powers to have friends, because they make those friends a little bit more two-dimensional. And then the actual story of these teenagers being manipulated by whatever creature, I wasn't as interested in, but I do like Raven as a character. She obviously is the best part of this. The artwork's really well done too. And I really like the idea of how they blended the New 52 with the pre-New 52. Actually makes sense why Raven has that costume from the New 52 as her soul. So I thought that was cool. So I guess exploring her powers was an interesting aspect of this issue. So overall I gave it 3.5 stars. It's not a perfect issue. I do think the supporting characters need work, but I do like Raven as a character. And I'm having fun with this series overall, and it's making me a Raven fan, which is important. So Raven issue 2 gets 3.5 stars. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 13, a little lower than usual, but still a good book, and that is Silk issue 13. I really do like Silk. I didn't really like the medieval section they were put into from last issue. That's why this book's a little lower than usual, and again, the artwork is not perfect for this book. I don't like kind of the crooked, swirly art style they have with the line work, but overall, I mean, this is what we've been waiting for. It's Cindy meeting up with her mom and dad, and seeing that her mom and dad have been through a lot, but they accept Cindy as who she is. It just took a very long time. And it wasn't about acceptance before, it was more about protecting her, but you see a very wounded family come back together, but then you have a cliffhanger of the dad, like, betraying Silk, maybe? Probably not, but there's probably another side of the story there, but now's the end of the issue, and you don't know where Silk's gonna go after this, because this is where her series was leading up to for how many volumes now. So, overall I liked it though. The emotion was very much there, but there are, you know, some slower parts in the medieval section, and of course we've been waiting so long for this. I don't know if it's like, oh my god, tearjerker, but it was a good issue. So Silk issue 13 gets 3.5 stars. Alright, so we are moving on to number 11, a book I've been really enjoying, and that's Joyride issue 6 from Boom. I just love the characters they're building here, this kind of Misfits, Firefly type thing going on. And we get to see one of our main characters maybe leaving the ship because, and this is the one who likes Uma, he is being controlled by the ship and might not be the character he used to be. But yeah, this is a good issue to learn more about the ship, learn more about these characters' interactions, and I thought it was a very solid book. Love the art style for the book, too, so 4 stars for me for Joyride. If my iPad wants to turn on. Okay. Number 10, which is A-Force issue 10, a book I'm really upset to see, you know, finishing, because I really enjoyed A-Force, and again, this issue proves why I liked it, because Captain Marvel is not, you know, just being a bitch. She's not just saying, hey guys, you're wrong, you know, you're wrong, I'm right. I mean, she's still saying that, but she's saying it in more of a human way in this series, more than any other series. I really think they've gotten Captain Marvel right here. There is some bloody artwork. I think that's something that turns me off of the book, but I really love the story, especially Nico, and how she has to kill someone, and how she deals with that. And then the team, they seem okay by the end, but this is the last issue, which is a shame. I really like A-Force, and I think is a very well done under-the-radar book, and one of the best Civil War II tie-ins. So, A-Force issue 10 gets 4 stars from me. Moving on to, I just realized that was issue 10, and that was number 10. But we're moving on to number 9, which is also an issue 9, and this is number 9. Green Lanterns, issue 9. And I didn't know what to expect with this, because I was, like, flipping through it. I'm like, Jessica and Simon aren't even in this issue. It's a filler. It might be execution heavy, but it wasn't. It actually got you interested in this villain that's coming up for Phantom Ring story arc, where he has a grudge against Jessica and Simon because he's always wanted a ring. His life has been about that. He struggled to get this ring, but now he has a ring where anyone could wear it, and I thought that was so cool. The reason it's not a little higher is because the artwork is still, you know, thin line work. I think the art style could be better. It felt a little skinny to me, but overall, I did like the issue, and again, I just really like that we got this background story for him, and going into Phantom Ring, the Phantom Ring story arc, we're gonna care for this villain, so I thought this was a very good filler issue. So for me, Green Lanterns issue 9 gets 4 stars. Now it's number 9. Moving on to number 8, a book that I'm glad is back on track, and that is Batman issue 9. Beautiful artwork. I mean, the deep ink work here, just love the art style. Really works well with this Bane story. I mean, look at this splash page here, two-page splash page. So gorgeous, this artwork. And the story is really good. It opens up where Bane is explaining kind of why he is the way he is and why he needs the help of the Psycho Pirate. And now Batman's coming up with this team kind of in a Suicide Squad way. And then the cliffhanger is that one of the characters is Catwoman, and she's killed the most people out of everybody. But again, the artwork just gets you so into this book where you do see Catwoman, and you just have these great facial expressions where she's like, meow, in the end. Oh man, this is so good. Really good book. Enjoyed it a lot. I expected a little bit more from Gotham Girl because, again, we had that weird monster story arc going on, which is why maybe this wasn't higher. If this issue was straight after the Gotham Girl issue, I feel like this would have been higher on my list, but I did feel like out of the groove because we had that weird mini crossover there. So Batman issue 9, though, gets 4 stars. Really like that book. Now it's number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Archie, issue 13. Another awesome book of Archie, and I'm so glad Joe Eisma is doing the artwork here. I love his art style. But also it does look different from Morning Glories because of the inking is a little bit bolder, like what we've seen with Fiona Staples' artwork and Veronica Fish. So I really like the inking here, and just kind of showing it's a little different from Morning Glory's art style. But here we get to see the aftermath of Archie and Betty just being lovesick and in their partners leaving them. But then it's actually in the point of view of Veronica, where she goes to this school and she's changed. She's a better person because she went to Riverdale. And she meets Cheryl Blossom, who's just the biggest bee in town. And she makes fun of this girl who's trying to pay her, well, who has a scholarship to this school, so she's not as privileged as these other characters. And Veronica wants to be friends with her, you know, trying to do the best for her. And in the end, Cheryl makes fun of her and invites her to a party for her birthday and then sends her to the garbage dump. And then Veronica's trying to be nice and says, I didn't know, and then the girl kind of closes her out. What I really like about this book is it actually made Veronica a better character. I think that's been my problem with this run of Archie, is that it's so, and I'm wearing my Team Betty shirt, I feel like a lot of people are Team Betty after the book, because Team Betty, Betty in general is a character you can really care for. Veronica, she's cold. She's a harder character to get into. But with this book, you get why people would like Veronica, and you dig deeper into who she is. She's still the same Betty. She's still the same Veronica. But she's learned. You know, she's learned about herself, about being a better person in these 13 issues, in this journey of being in Riverdale. So really like this book. In another week, I think it would have been in my top 5, but there's a lot of great solid books this week. So Archie issue 13 gets 4 stars. Really enjoyed that book. That is number 7. Moving on to number 6, a book I really recommend you guys getting. It didn't make my top 5, but it was really close, honorable mention, and it was just a really unique book that I wanted to talk about, and that was Die Kitty Die, issue 1, and this is from Chapter House, I think it's called, and it's very Archie, so if you like Archie, that's the style of the book. And it was a Kickstarter book, actually, where I didn't know it was a Kickstarter, but now they're coming out with the 4 issues in, like, Diamond, so it just was put on Comixology and stuff like that. I actually just backed up the next volume so I could read that in advance, but this book is about this witch, this actual witch, Kitty. She had all these comic book series, they did well, and now she's seeing, you know, the comic book industry is different, and I feel like this is very much a commentary on, like, how Archie is playing against Marvel and DC and all that. I feel like it's very much a commentary on Archie comics, but, you know, she had good stories, and now they're trying to use publicity to make them better, like marrying her off and doing all these different things. She's like, why can't we just have a genuinely good comic? And she's worried. She's worried about her comic. And then we have the publisher who says, how do we make these comics sell better? And you have this, like, social media guy, all that, and they said, let's kill her off. And they're like, okay, kill her off in the comic? That's cool. It's like, no, kill her off in real life. And they're like, how do we kill off a witch? So it's just this really hyperactive commentary on the comic book industry, which is so much fun. It's not spoon-fed, though, where you're like, oh, wow, they're really commentating on the comic industry. It's still fun, and it's still a story. It's not just commentating on the industry, but it's commentating on the industry, which is so fun. And that's why I wish this was my top 5, but there's other books I really enjoy, but I need to highlight this book because it was so much fun. It's a Kickstarter book, so get it. It was a lot of fun. But moving on to number 5, which is Spider-Gwen issue 13. A book I really enjoyed because it's Halloween, it gets you in the spirit, but I also like the Mary Janes interacting with Gwen. And Mary Jane, out of all people, saying, yeah, she's Spider-Woman. And then they, the Mary Janes are like, yeah, she might be Spider-Woman because of everything that's been going on with her dad. And then there's even a moment in this issue where Mary Jane's like, Gwen, I know you're Spider-Woman. I don't care. Like, I won't tell anybody. Just get us out of here. And then Gwen doesn't have her power up, so we do know she doesn't have her powers yet. Have her powers again. I wish they kind of dealt with that story arc already, but yeah, it was a fun issue. I think Betty's arc was a little weird, but overall, I like the character, building here, and I love the Peter scene with Gwen, where she really sees her fears come face to face with her. So it was a really fun one-shot filler issue. So Spider-Gwen issue 13 gets 4 stars, and that is number 5. We're moving on to number 4, which is Trinity issue 2. So this book was a really solid book. Gets you in the feels if you're a big Superman fan, where you get to see Clark interacting with his father and dealing with his heart attack, showing that he's still alive, which is really Clark's biggest hope. And he wants to talk about him of being a father himself, and then the father being scared of like, oh, this is a Kryptonian, he's going to take away my son. So it's a really cool father-son issue with gorgeous, gorgeous artwork, with Francis Mountful being my favorite artist. It's so good. And then we find out that these are kind of the worst fears / what they want, and that's because of Poison Ivy. And it looks like next we'll get Batman and then Wonder Woman, which I think makes sense. I would like to see that because it has been so Superman focused, this book. I thought it was a really solid book and I really enjoyed it. So Trinity issue 2 gets 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Power Rangers Pink issue 4. A book I just having so much fun with, because we get to see Kimberly team up with her enemy, with Goldar, and also I feel like the supporting characters in her interaction with the supporting characters have been so good, making her new supporting characters, Power Rangers, her mom, really reacting to Kimberly being a Power Ranger, and with the artwork just being so good, she shows it through facial expressions and like small things because she can't talk through the book. And then we get to the moment where we see this big robot, and usually in the show that happens every episode, and you're like, alright, whatever. But here there is a true build-up, a true character build-up where you're like, whoa, okay, how is Kimberly gonna get out of this? Maybe because it's really on the shoulders of Kimberly, so there's more at stake. But I just love the build-up and character motivations and character moments in this book. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Pink issue 4 gets 4.5 stars. Really love this book. Pick it up if you're not reading it. Number 2 is a book that I was just so surprised with, and that is Spider-Woman issue 12. I really love this one-shot book because I'm a Staten Islander, and they actually made the setting in Staten Island on the boardwalk right near the Verrazano Bridge, and they actually got all the settings right, so kudos, love that. But also it's just a fun issue to build up Porcupine's character, where he defeats Sandman on his own, and Jessica's like trying to be a good teacher and saying, alright, we're going to make him do it on his own, but we're going to move all the kids this way. And there's also good interaction between Porcupine and his daughter, and Jessica and her son, and just Jessica being like a cool aunt to Porcupine's daughter. So this is just a fun issue, and again, as a Staten Islander, I totally appreciated this. So Spider-Woman issue 12 gets 4.5 stars. Moving on to my total #1 pick of the week, and that is Astonishing Ant Man issue 13. I mean, I gushed over this in a written review for the Marvel Report and on my own video review on my channel. But all I have to say is that I love Cassie and Scott's relationship here. How you brought down their relationship on purpose. You destroyed the relationship to build it up to be stronger. And that's something I really enjoyed. And when you get to see Ant-Man and Stinger teaming up and saying, yeah, we're going to be teaming up for now on, it makes it a stronger moment. Because this hasn't just been a journey for the past 2 years in Ant-Man, in Astonishing Ant-Man. It's been a journey since Young Avengers, since probably the death of Scott. Where Cassie was a hero during Young Avengers, Scott was dead. And then Young Avengers or Avengers Children's Crusade comes out, and Cassie dies, so Scott has to be a hero without her. And then the whole trials and errors of Ant-Man happen, and they build up to become each other's heroes. And I loved it. Even Peggy. Peggy was so cool here, because that's another character from Young Avengers, always despised her daughter being a hero. Hated that she had abilities, because it reminded her of Scott, reminded her that Scott was dead. And then she used Cassie's death as an excuse to say, no, you gotta be a normal girl, you gotta do this. And yeah, in the end we get to see that she accepts her daughter as Stinger, as a hero, and tries to bring Scott into their lives as much as possible, because she knows he's a good father. You know, he's not perfect, he's not even a perfect superhero, but he's a good father. And I love that, because that was always the basis of Scott's character. So great book. 5 stars from me. I love this book. One of my favorite books probably of the year. Just so good. Yeah. Pick that up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what was your worst pick of the week, your best pick of the week, and everything in between. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. I'll see you guys later. Bye.